Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ma'am and classmates. My name is Edison Maestri and I am your reporter for today. The title of my report that is assigned to me is Earthquakes. So, where is the first idea when you hear earthquake? I'm sure sasabihin nyo na ang unang pumapasok sa inyong kaisipan is earthquake is shaking of the ground. So, hanggang doon lang ba yung tinatawag nating earthquake or may rason ba? May dahilan ba kung bakit nagkakaroon ng earthquake? We can easily conclude that earthquake is shaking of the ground. But today we will understand what are the causes of earthquake. Let us first define what is earthquake. Yan, what is earthquake? An earthquake is the shaking caused by the rupture or breaking and subsequent displacement of rocks. One body of rock moving with respect to another beneath earth surface. So malinaw, ang earthquake, tama nga naman, that is what? Shaking caused by rupture, what else? Subsequent displacements of rock beneath the earth surface, no? So ano-ano nga ba yung dahilan kung bakit mayroong earthquake or at nagkakaroon ng earthquake? Let's proceed to number one. Number one cause of an earthquake is the tectonic movement. What is this tectonic movement? The primary cause of earthquake is the tectonic movement in the earth crust. So, ang tectonic movement is one of the primary cause kung bakit nagkakaroon po ng lindol. No? The Earth lithosphere is divided into several large and small tectonic plates that float on the semi-fluid layer, which is the mantle of the asthenosphere beneath them. This plate continuously move, albeit very slow. So yung plates na ito, hindi sila yung pabilisan, no? These plates are moving slowly or very slow due to the convection current generated by the heat from the earth core. So, pag ang plates interact to interact at their boundaries, they can collide. So, ibig sabihin, pwede silang magbanggaan. Ang tinatawag natin ditong ay convergent boundary. Once it's moving apart naman, this is the convergent boundary. Or a slide past each other, this is what we call the transform boundary. The strain accumulate from this movement leads to the release of energy na kung saan ay nagdudulot ng paglindol or tinatawag nating earthquake. Number two cause of earthquake is the volcanic eruption. We are not too innocent about this since Philippines is one of the many countries around the world who are uh, surrounded by volcanoes, no? And let's proceed to volcanic eruption. Volcanoes are also a significant cause of earthquake. The movement of magma from beneath the Earth's surface to volcanic leads to significant pressure changes which is released in the form of earthquake. So, nangyayari kapag ang vulkan ay pumutok, of course, it will release energy from beneath the earth that will comes out sa vulkan, no? Kaya nagkakaroon ng yung tinatawag natin na yung magma, 'di ba, lumalabas siya sa bunganga ng vulkan. So, the third cause of earthquake is the man-made causes. Ano ito? Besides natural causes, human activity can also induce earthquake. At ano nga ba yung mga human activities that can induce earthquake? Dito natin malalaman na yung mga activities na yon such as fracking o hydraulic fracturing, 'di ba? Ito yung nagpapasabog, 'di ba? Yung mining, isa sa mga nagdudulot ng earthquake. Meron pa dito, the reservoir induced seismicity or caused by the filling of a large reservoir behind dams. So, isa ito sa mga nagko-cause ng earthquake, no? And nuclear test and the extraction of resources like oil and gas can lead to earthquake since it releases our earth beneath or yung ilalim ng mundo natin ay nag-release ng energy. So, ayan. The third causes of an earthquake was tsunami and landslide. Although these are usually the result of an earthquake and volcanic activity, the massive displacement of land or sea can also influence seismic activity due to the enormous pressure changes. So, malalaman natin, 'di ba? Lalo pa doon sa mga lugar na nakakaranas ng tsunami, 'di ba? And nararanasan nila yung earthquake dahil sa gadagundong or yung tinatawag na yung seismic activity na nararanasan ng earth, no, kapag rumaragas yung tubig na mula sa karagatan. And yes, yung landslide, maaari din po siya mag-cause ng earthquake, no? Syempre, yung dagundong ng mga bato, yung pag landslide ng mga lupa at marami pang iba. Ano nga ba yung tinatawag na elastic deformation? So this picture show us the perfect illustration of the elastic deformation. Pag sinabi natin elastic deformation, let us first define it. Let us read it. Elastic deformation is a temporary change in shape or size of an object when a force is applied and result to its original state when the force is removed. Ayan, so elastic deformation, ito ay yung pagbabago. So kung makikita natin dito sa picture, from no stress applied hanggang nagkaroon siya ng deform. Yan, sa pangalawa, makikita natin, di ba, daw nagbawog imaw. Yan, nagkaroon na siya ng stress. Until the rupture's stress is released. So, nagkaroon na siya ng fracture. So here, sa stress, sa pre-existing rupture surface, and until dito sa stress focus where asperities are in contact. Dito natin nakikita na nagkakaroon siya ng fracture or nabi-break yung kanyang original state, no? So, ayan, hanggang siya ay nagkaroon na or na-release na, di ba? Here sa last part, no? Nagkaroon na siya ng, ayan, kumbaga na-release na yung energy that retains to that particular place, no? So, I have here stick just to show you how this elastic deformation applies in earthquake. Ayan, so from no stress hanggang sa nagkaroon, ayan, nakita nyo na ba? Once the stress or the force are applied, the stick are bending. Ayan, nakita natin. So, once the pressure increases, it might, what? Broken. Like, ayan. So, nakita natin kung ano yung mangyayari or ano yung nangyayari sa elastic deformation. So, by using this illustration, we will understand that elastic deformation ay isa sa mga easily to understand to apply, no? Na makikita natin kung anong nangyayari sa ilalim ng ating kalupaan, no? Ayan, and dito po mafo-form yung tinatawag nating fault. Ayan, so mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan. Next. Yan. Ano nga ba yung mga principles ng elastic deformation? First is si Hooke's law. This principle state that under the application of an external force, the deformation of the material is directly proportional to the stress applied to it. So, ibig sabihin, kapag ang isang bagay, sinasabi ng principle na ito, na kapag ang isang bagay ay inaplayan natin ng force, anong mangyayari? It will begin to deform. No? The material will begin to deform directly proportional sa stress, doon sa stress na kung saan siya ay in-applyan, no, ng force. In other words, within the elastic limit of the material, the strain experience is proportional to the applied stress. Kung ang stress na naranasan ng kung yung stress na naranasan ay malakas, of course, the elastic deformation is easily to be broken. It's very easy to collapse. Ayan. Hooke's law is mathematically expressed as stress equals modulus of elasticity times strain. So doon natin makikita na once ang stress or a force applied into particular object, magkakaroon siya ng deformation. Kagaya ng stick na pinakita ko po sa inyo kanina. So, elasticity. Ang elasticity deformation, ito naman ay tumutukoy sa reversible distortion or change in shape of a material when a stress is applied, followed by the material returning to its original shape once the stress is removed. Ayan. Mostly, ang ganitong mga karakteristik ay makikita natin sa sa rubber materials, no? Even though na i-deform natin sila, babalik at babalik sila doon sa original state na kung saan ay yun, yung kanilang physical appearance, no? It is the ability of the material to recover its shape after being deformed. Ayan. So, kung meron man kayo dyang bola na gawa sa sponge, or let's say the sponge itself, di ba? Once we crumpled it, it will what? It will go back to its original shape. Di ba? Yun po yung tinatawag na elasticity, no? And the same time, kung may mga goma kayo na like laruan, di ba? Try to crumple it and leave it in your hand, and makikita natin na babalik at babalik siya doon sa original state ng bagay na yon. Next principles is number 3 is the elastic limit. The elastic limit is the maximum stress that a material can endure while still exhibiting elastic deformation. So kagaya nung pinakita ko sa inyo kanina na stick, 'di ba? Once it's reached its elastic limit, it will what happen? It will be broken. So, ayan, naiintindihan na ba natin? Ayan, so very good. So, beyond this limit, the material undergoes plastic deformation. So, it will change its shapes, its size. So, ayun. So, meaning it will experience permanent change in shape. Ayan, so nandiyan na din. And number 4 is the modulus of elasticity. The modulus of elasticity, also known as the Young's modulus, is a measure of material's stiffness or resistance to elastic deformation. Yung principle naman na ito ay dito natin mapapansin yung kanyang pagiging resistance. Kumbaga, hindi siya maaapektuhan ng force or ng stress that can be applied to that particular matter. Ayan. So, sabi pa dito, it quantifies how much a material will be deformed under given stress. It is defined as the ratio of stress to strain within the elastic range. Ayan, kaya niyang makipagsabayan doon sa kung paano mo siya applyan ng stress, no? So, next principle is the Poisson's ratio. Ano ito? It relates the lateral strain or yung tinatawag nating deformation perpendicular to the applied stress. To the axial strain, ito naman yun, yung deformation parallel to the applied stress. Anong ibig sabihin nitong dalawa? Pag sinabi natin perpendicular to the applied stress, ang ratio ng force or ng stress that you are applying to that particular object, it might be what? Ano pwedeng mangyari? There is possibility na hindi siya maapektuhan. While this deformation parallel to the applied stress, ito yung kung ano yung lakas na ging apply mo or yung stress na ging apply mo sa isang bagay, ganun din siya magre-response doon sa bagay na iyong ginagamit or ina-applyan ng stress. Yun po. It is described the tendency of the materials to expand or contract in response to deformation. It is a dimensionless value typically ranging from 1 to 0.5, where positive values indicate expansion and negative value indicates contraction. Number 6 is the elastic energy storage. When a material is elastically deformed, it stores potential energy. Tama. Kapag ang materialis kuno is elastically deformed, ibig sabihin, kung hindi siya nagalaw or hindi nagbago yung kanyang shape. So, it's considered as what? Potential. The material itself is in potential energy. This energy is released when the stress is removed. Diba? So, kapag ikaw ay kapag ikaw ay may bola tapos yung deflate mo ito, di ba? Anong mangyayari? Siya ay mahungaw. At the same time, hindi na siya babalik doon sa original state niya or sa original shape niya, no? So, the magnitude of the stored energy depends on the amount of deformation and the elastic properties of the materials. So, yung nakadepende po sa energy and amount ng deformation, ang elastic property ng isang materials. So, how the principle of elastic deformation applies to earthquake? Paano nga ba? So, let us read. The principle of elastic deformation applies to earthquake by explaining how stress accumulate in the earth crust causing rock to deform elastically. So kanina malinaw na pinapakita or malinaw na sinasabi doon sa mga naunang principles na pinapakita doon yung elasticity ng earth crust. So once it's applied the stress within the earth crust or beneath the earth crust, there is possibility na magkaroon ng breaks. No? Doon, mamaya, mapapag-usapan natin yan. So, hinay-hinay lang muna tayo. So, causing rock to deform elastically. So, when stress exceed the elastic limit, kapag naabot niya na ang elastic limit niya, it causes the rock to rupture along faults. Ayan, magkakaroon yun ng hiwa. Magkakaroon doon malapit sa fault. And of course, the fault will be triggered because of the rupture, releasing stored elastic energy and resulting it in an earthquake. So once the fault was triggered by the rupture, so what will happen? Diba? So it will release energy, caused earthquake. It will result in an earthquake. The rocks then gradually rebound on their original shape, undergoing post-seismic elastic relaxation. Ayan. So, understanding elastic deformation ay natutulungan yung mga scientists na ma-study yung fault mechanics o what was happened to this fault, how this fault deforms. Diba? So, natutulungan yung mga scientists to explain or kumalap ng mga idea what was happened, how this happened. Okay. So, assess seismic hazard and improve earthquake monitoring and mitigation efforts. So next, ayan. Ano naman yung tinatawag na main shock and aftershock? So yung main shock, In seismology, the main shock is the largest earthquake. Bakit? Kasi siya yung pinaka-main. It is the primary shock that we've experienced, no, sa pagdating ng earthquake. So, sabi pa dito, sometimes preceded by one or more for shock, and almost always followed by mini aftershock. So, yun po yung tinatawag na main shock. Siya yung pinaka malaking earthquake. And yung aftershock naman are the sequence of earthquake that happen after a larger main shock on a fault. So, ang mauuna ay ang main shock at ang pangalawa ay ang aftershock. So, 'di ba? Kaya kapag nag-earthquake minsan, may aftershock 'yan, may aftershock 'yan. So, bakit? Kasi aside from the main shock, may kasunod pa siyang aftershock, but it's not guaranteed that it's bigger or larger than the main shock that has been passed through. Okay. Next, the rupture surface. Ayan. Dito na natin makikita mamaya yung fault, no? The rupture surface of an earthquake is defined as the area along a fault where the rocks have experienced significant displacement during the seismic event. It represents the boundaries of the region where the rocks have slipped or moved past each other, releasing stored elastic energy and causing the earthquake. Yung rupture na ito yung hiwa or ito yung sabihin natin, ito yung parang sugat sa lupa, no? So mamaya papakita natin. Ayan. So saan yung surface rupture dyan? So kung makikita natin yung surface rupture, as I said a while ago, na yung surface rupture, yan, makita natin siya yung hiwa, no? That along with the fault. O, yung tinatawag nating fault. So, from here, no, sa epicenter, ayan. So, siguro, ang nangyari dito is convergent or divergent or ayan. So, ito yung sinatawag na rupture, yung may nakasulat na surface rupture. So, from hypocenter to epicenter, dyan nag-start yung movement, dyan nag-start yung pag-release ng energy na meron that causes what? Again, earthquake. So, ito yung hitsura ng surface rupture. Of course, it is very visible to our eyes since this rupture is above or in the crust, no? Makikita natin siya, no? So, ayan. Naintindihan ba? Okay, let's move on. So, how stress transfer in related to aftershock? Paano nga ba nas-transfer yung stress, no? Let's read. Stress transfer plays a significant role in the occurrence of aftershock following an earthquake. When an earthquake takes place, kapag ang earthquake kuno ay nag-take place, mabilis siyang magre-release ng accumulated stress along the fault. Ibig sabihin, yung earthquake ay mabilis siyang magre-release ng stress doon sa fault. That's why nagkakaroon ng aftershock or nagkakaroon ng earthquake because of triggering what? The fault itself, because of the rapid releasing of stress, no? Na malapit sa fault. This sudden release of stress causes a redistribution of stress in the surrounding crust. This redistribution can activate or reactivate adjacent fault or areas that were previously under high stress but did not rupture during the main shock. So, sabi dito, this distribution can activate or reactivate adjacent faults. So, ibig sabihin, yung distribution ng stress na ito ay pwede na maaring ma-activate yung dating stress na hindi na-accumulate or hindi nangyari, no? And there is possibility that it can activate or reactivate the adjacent fault. So, imbis na walang fault doon, because of the trigger of the stress, magkakaroon na lang. So, dahil nga ni na sequel or let's say na nakalabit, no? So, naistorbo. So, yun po yung possible na mangyari, no? So, ayan. Next. Aftershock occurs as the crust continues to readjust and accommodate the new stress distribution caused by the main shock. Ang aftershock, di ba, ay magtutuloy-tuloy, no? As the crust, habang ang crust na daw ay nag-a-adjust, no? Para ma-accumulate niya yung stress, yung na nadidistribute dahil sa main shock na kanyang nararanasan. So, the stress changes induced by the main shock can, excuse me po, and main shock can either increase or decrease stress on nearby faults depending on their orientation and proximity. So, yan. A stress transfer is the context of aftershock can be categorized into two main types. What are these two main types of aftershock? First is the Coulomb stress transfer. What is this? It's occur when the stress changes causes by the main shock increase or decrease the stress level on adjacent fault. So, ang Coulomb stress kuno ay natatransfer kapag ito ay caused by the main shock, no? It will increase or decrease depending sa it will increase or decrease the stress level on adjacent fault, no? If the stress is increased, it can bring neighboring faults closer to failure, leading the aftershock. Kapag ang stress ay dumagdag o nadagdagan, there is possibility na magkaroon ng kasunod na fault, di ba? So, parang ano yan, parang networking. If there's something triggered into it, there's possibility na hindi lang maging isa yung fault. There's possibility na madagdagan pa yung fault. And so on and so forth. So, it can stabilize, sabi dyan, neighboring faults, reducing the likelihood of additional seismic activity. At dahil nadagdagan ng fault, there is possibility that the seismic activity ay magtutuloy-tuloy because of the presence of neighboring faults that is within that particular area. Yan. Next is the static stress triggering. Ayan. The static stress triggering refers to the phenomenon where the stress changes induced by the main shock enhance the release of stress on nearby fault, promoting aftershock. So, yun nga kanina, di ba? Once the fault was triggered, of course, there is possibility na makakonect yun to the other or sa mas malapit na tawag nito, fault, no? And there is possibility nga mas mag-promote siya ng aftershock, no? Na meron doon. Then, this triggering mechanism can occur when the stress mechanism this triggering mechanism can occur when the stress perturbation from the main shock is sufficient to exceed and frictional strength is nearby fault causing them to rupture. So, yun po yung nagiging dahilan, no? Na kung bakit. So, sabi diyan, it is important to note that stress transfer is not the sole control. Ibig sabihin, yung stress transfer, hindi lang po siya yung nag-iisa na nag-control sa pagkakaroon ng surface rupture or aftershock or main shock, no, sa particular na fault, no? Marami pong factors na possible na mag-contribute dito. So, other factors such as the local geology, fault characteristic, and the presence of fluids in the earth crust can also be the influence of aftershock activity. Yun pa. So, next is the episodic tremor and sleep. Ano naman ito, yung ETS na ito? Ito yung pangyayari na kung saan ang Earth crust along a subduction zone undergoes slow and rhythmic movement. So, ibig sabihin, this ETS is phenomenon or a subduction zone, no, na kung saan ay nag-undergo ng dahan-dahan na movement in what? In rhythmic movement. So ano yung rhythmic movement na ito? Of course, it has a beat as the word rhythm, di ba? It has a beat like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So ibig sabihin, this movement are not continuous as what we think, no? So it's move rhythmically, no? So ayan. It's involve both tremors, low frequency seismic vibration, and sleep or slow and continuous movement. This ETS event occur in subduction zone and provide insight into the fault behavior and stress accumulation. Monitoring ETS event helps understand subduction zone process and assist seismic hazard. So maya-maya may picture ako ipapakita, no? Ayan. So yung isa sa mga halimbawa dito ay yung structure in Cascadia subduction zone na makikita sa Juan de Fuca plates sa North America plates. So dito makikita natin yung pag-subduct, no, ng yung subduction zone within the earth that causes earthquake. Yan po yung isa sa mga maaaring simula ng earthquake, yung subduction zone. Kasi gaya kanina, di ba? It's move what rhythmically. Hindi siya agad-agaran, no? So, there is beat, no? Diyan natin makikita. Yan. Deep earthquake. Yan, there is possibility that this deep earthquake will trigger the subduction zone that will also cause earthquake or tinatawag nating main shock. So, dito natin makikita these illustrations give us the better understanding of what this episodic tremor sleep na nangyayari or yung ETS, no? So ayun, I hope na nakita nyo po. And next is the process of episodic tremor and sleep. Tremor and sleep. Ano nga ba yung proseso nito? The process of episodic tremor and sleep involves slow and rhythmic movement. So sinabi ko na po kanina. So ano yung mga steps in ETS process? No, ano yun? Number 1 is the lock interface. Initially, the subduction interface between two tectonic plates is locked or stuck. Stress gradually accumulates in the lock zone as the interplates friction prevent the two plates from smoothly sliding past to each other. So, ayan, na-explain ko na din po kanina, no? So, number 2 is the transition zone. The transition zone lies between the lock portion of the subduction interface and the seismogenic zone where earthquakes occur. So, this transitional region experiences elevated stress and is susceptible to ETS activity. So, number 3 is the initiation of sleep. Due to high stress level, a slow sleep event or the SSE is initiated within the transition zone. SSE involves the gradual release of accumulated stress and result in slow and continuous movement along the subduction interface during the SSE. The plates slip past each other at a slower rate than during an earthquake. So, pinakita ko na po sa inyo kanina doon sa pictures. No? Kung makikita natin yung subduction na unti-unti siyang bumababa, nag-slip, nag-move, no? Downward. And next is the recovery phase. After the completion of an ETS event, the subduction interface enters a period of relative quiescence as stress begins to accumulate again. Ayan. So, ibig sabihin, it is continuous, no? So, it will, once it complete the event sa subduction interface, so, ang mangyayari, paulit-ulit siya nang mangyayari, it will begin, no? And accumulate again. So, ibig sabihin, tuloy-tuloy siya mangyayari. So, this process sets the stage for future ETS events. So, ang susunod naman natin ay ang earthquake and plate tectonics. Here are some key aspects of relationship between earthquake. So, ano nga ba na ang relasyon ng earthquake and plate tectonics? And mostly, from our past study in elementary, alam natin na ang tectonic plates ay may malaking ambag kung bakit nagkakaroon ng earthquake. So, because of different boundaries. And what are these plates boundaries? Number one is the plate boundaries. The boundaries where tectonic plates interact are the primary location of earthquake. Ayan. So, binanggit natin kanina, di ba, yung mga boundaries. Ayan. And let's talk about this, no? So, ano nangyayari? So, isa sa mga may malaking contribution is yung plate boundaries, no? So, because of these tectonic plates, it's interact the primary location of an earthquake. So, there are three main types of plate boundaries. Ano-ano nga ba yung three main types of plate boundaries? Although, we've been already mentioned it a while ago, but let us have a better understanding, deeper understanding about these boundaries. So, letter A is the convergent boundaries. When plates collide, one plate may be forced beneath the other in the process called subduction, causing intense compression and create large, deep earthquake. So, dito po sa convergent boundary, ito po yung kung saan ang plates ay nagbabanggaan. It's collides. Andito nangyayari po yung tinatawag nating subduction. Diba? Kanina pinakita natin yung subduction zone na kung saan pinakita din doon yung convergent boundary, no? Na tinutukoy dito. Of course, it has a deep earthquakes. Ibig sabihin, mas malakas or mas malawak or mas malaki yung nagagawa nitong earthquake. Letter B is the divergent boundaries. When plates move apart, magma rises to fill the gap. So, dito naman sa divergent boundary, once the two plates are move apart, the magma will arise to fill its gap between the two plates that are moved apart from each other. So, it's lead to volcanic activity and shallow earthquake. Ayan. So, mostly ito nangyayari sa oceanic crust, no? So, doon mostly nangyayari yung mga na ito, yung divergent boundary. And next is the transform boundaries. These plates slide past each other horizontally. Paano yung horizontally? Ganyan. So, the stress builds up along the fault, eventually causing it to rupture and resulting an earthquake. So, because of this transform boundary, so they were slide to each other horizontally. Ayan. Once it slide to each other horizontally, the stress builds up along the faults at nagkakaroon ito ng rupture or yung tinatawag natin surface rupture, no? Pinag-usapan din natin kanina. So, next zone is the subduction zone. Subduction zone where our plate move beneath another are associated with the most powerful and destructive earthquakes. Ayan. So, subduction zone, pinag-usapan natin kanina sa convergent boundary, di ba? Sabi ko nga kanina na dito nangyayari yung pinakamalalakas na lindol, no, na hindi mo inaasahan sa buong buhay mo. Ayan. So, So, friction. The descending plates can become locked due to friction, accumulating stress over time until it eventually slip and trigger a large and often devastating earthquake. Ito yung pinakamalakas, no? Next is the fault zone. Fault are the fractures along which rocks on either side have moved relative to each another. The earthquake occur when the stress along a fault exceeds the strength of the rocks, causing them to rupture and release energy in the form of seismic wave. And the seismic activity patterns, ito yung patterns niya. Earthquakes are not uniformly distributed. No? So, ibig sabihin, ang earthquake daw ay hindi uniformly distributed. Ibig sabihin, hindi pari-parihas yung lakas niya, hindi pari-parihas yung lugar niya, hindi pari-parihas yung coast niya. No? But rather cluster along plates boundaries and faults, reflecting the ongoing interaction between tectonic plates. Also, yes, it is depending to its condition sa plate boundaries and so forth, no? The Pacific Ring of Fire of the Mediterranean Asia Belt are prime example of region with intense seismic activities due to the convergence of tectonic plates. So, alam nyo ba na ang Pilipinas ay isa sa tinatawag nating Pacific Ring of Fire because the Philippines surrounded by many volcanoes. So, kung sabay-sabay itong puputok, wala ang Pilipinas, no? So mostly here in Pacific Ring of Fire in Mediterranean Asia Belt, so dito nakakaranas ng malalakas, no, na lindol or seismic activity because of the convergence of tectonic plates. Ayan. So earthquake magnitude and intensity. So paano ito nami-measure? Earthquake intensity describe the effects and damage observed at a specific location. It is the qualitative assessment on a scale that ranges from 1 to 12. So, magnitude focuses on the energy release, while intensity focuses on the consequences of the specific location. So, tandaan natin ha, ang pagkakaiba ng magnitude at intensity. Ulitin ko po, na ang magnitude, it focuses on what? Energy release. Yun yung magnitude. While ang intensity naman ay nakafocus doon sa maaaring mangyari sa specific location na tinamaan ng magnitude ng isang or na tinamaan ng lindol. No? So, yun po yung pagkakaiba ng magnitude at intensity. Minsan kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng misunderstanding with these both measurement. No? So, ngayon, alam na natin kung ano yung pagkakaiba ng magnitude and intensity. Ayan. Next is the method estimating earthquake magnitude includes the Richter scale. Ano itong measurement na ito? The amplitude of seismic waves recorded by seismograph. So, ito yung old recorder na tinatawag natin, no? Na yung mga line na yan. So, used for local and regional analysis of small to moderate earthquake. Number 2 is the moment magnitude scale. Consider total seismic moment release relevant for larger and distant earthquakes. Number 3 is the body wave movement. Analyze the amplitude of primary and secondary wave traveling through the Earth interior. So, dito naman, nire-record nito yung primary and secondary wave na nag-travel along the Earth interiors. Next is the surface wave magnitude. It focuses on the amplitude of slower force surface waves useful for estimating magnitudes of larger earthquake. Yung duration magnitude naman, of course, the word is duration, di ba? It's based on duration, sa layo, sa abot ng seismic wave na kanyang mapupuntahan. Particularly helpful for complex or distorted waveforms. This method provides insight for seismic monitoring, engineering, and understanding regional seismicity. So, yun po. Yung mga methods that is on how uh, the earthquake estimated, no, in magnitude. So next is the importance of intensity data. Bakit ka ba mahalaga yung intensity data? Ito yung mga reason why. So seismic hazard assessment. So isa sa mga rason kung bakit mahalaga ito para malaman din ng mga seismologists and geologists at ma-evaluate din nila at ma-update yung seismic hazard na meron sa isang lugar, which are used to determining areas prone to earthquake activity. So ginagamit nila ito para ma-identify, ma-determine yung mga lugar na kung saan ay prone sa lindol. Next is the emergency response and preparedness. Intensity data assist the directing emergency response effort. Is help emergency management officials prioritize area for search and rescue operation. So, ginagamit ito nila upang matukoy nila kung saang lugar ba talaga yung nakakailangan ng immediate response or immediate rescue operation, no, na tinatawag, or medical assistant, no, or disaster response na mas talaga nangangailangan. So yun po, isa sa mga importansya at isa sa mga rason kung bakit mahalaga po ang data collection, no? Ng intensity data collection. So number 4, number 3 and number 3. Scientific research and understanding. So intensity data aids in scientific research to unravel the underlying mechanism of earthquakes and fault behavior. By analyzing patterns of intensity distribution, scientists can investigate how ground motion varies with distance from the earthquake source, the effects of local geology on shaking, and the other factors that contribute to the observed intensity levels. This data helps refine earthquake models, improve understanding in seismic wave propagation, and enhance earthquake forecasting capability. So, yung mga scientific research and understanding, ito ay ginagamit nila yung mga data para matulungan na ma-refine yung earthquake models and ma-improve din yung seismic wave propagation at enhance yung pag-detect, no, yung forecasting about sa earthquake. Yan, the earthquake and destruction. So dito natin kikita kung ano yung kayang gawin ng earthquake. First is the fire. During earthquakes, gas line and rupture electrical wiring may fray or short circuit, and a spark may ignite flammable materials leading to fire. So ito yung maaring distraction na nagdulot ng earthquake, no? Hindi natin inaasahan na once there is an earthquake, there is possibility na yung mga gas lines, no, yung mga masira yung mga wirings natin na maaring magdulot ng sparks or else ikamatay pa ng ilang tao, no? Hindi naman natin inaasahan, pero ganun po talaga yung maaring mangyari once there is earthquake, and of course there is distractions. So next is the slope failure. Seismic shaking can destabilize slope, triggering landslides or avalanches. These can vary buildings, road, and infrastructure under debris, leading the widespread damage and hindering rescue and recovery efforts. So, sa slope failure, ito naman ay there is possibility na ma-trigger, no, lalo na yung mga yung sa landslide and yung avalanches. There is possibility magkaroon nga po ng sinkhole, no, in some places kung saan ay makakaranas ng lindol, or else yung mga skyway or skywalk ng mga daan na yung matataas, no, there is possibility na mag-collapse din po sila. Ayan. Next is liquefaction. In area with loose water saturated soil, seismic waves from earthquake can cause the ground to behave like a liquid, diba? So, yun po yung maaring mangyari or yung maaring, yes, mangyari, no? Doon sa lugar na merong ganito. This phenomenon known as the liquefaction can lead to sinking, tilting, or a collapse of building and infrastructure. So, sinabi ko na din po yan kanina. And of course, the tsunami, ang pinaka nararanasan talaga no, ng bansa, lalong higit sa Japan, na nakakaranas ng even this recent year lang, no, nakaranas sila ng tsunami. So, submarine earthquakes. Anong submarine earthquake? Ito ay earthquake na nangyayari sa ilalim ng karagatan. So, underwater landslide. Yan. Yun yung mga reason kung bakit minsan nagkakaroon ng tsunami or volcanic eruption can generate tsunamis. Large ocean waves, when this wave reach the coastal area, they can inundate low-lying areas causing extensive damage and building infrastructure. So, alam naman natin kung ano yung nangyari sa Japan recently, no, na talagang na tsunami sila, no. So, ayun. So, earthquake forecasting and mitigation. So, value of earthquake forecasting. Bakit nga ba mahalaga ito? Of course, it's life save. The early warning from earthquake forecasting can evacuate people from danger. So, mahalaga po yung pagbabalita, no, na mga ganitong uring pangyayari, lalo hindi natin inaasahan, lalo hindi natin alam kung kailan siya darating. Mahalaga na maabisuhan natin, lalo na yung mga taong like malapit sa bulkan na maglikas. Next is the injury reduction. Of course, para mababawasan yung pagkakaroon ng injury, no? Advance notice allow individuals. So, kaya nga, maganda po talaga na merong forecasting. May nagsasabi, may nagbabalita, or may nag-announce, like in every barangays, no? So, ayun po. Next is property protection. Community can secure belonging and infrastructure, minimizing damage and financial losses. So, ayan. Mahalaga din po ito, no? So, next is the infrastructure resilience. Forecast inform building code and urban planning leading us to stronger, more resilient structure. So, mahalaga yung forecasting also to inform yung mga building to have their building codes if ever na magkaroon ng earthquake. So, next is the disaster preparedness. Of course, bagamat ang earthquake hindi natin siya alam kung kailan siya mangyayari, but it is important that maging prepared tayo, no? Earthquake forecasting enhance emergency response readiness improve. Syempre, pagkatapos ng earthquake, mahalaga na may forecasting, diba, may balita, in order nga kung sakaling may mangyari mang tsunami, diba, at least prepared ang mga tao. Next is the community resilience. With early warning, communities can develop comprehensive disaster preparedness plan, fostering resilience in the face of seismic events. So, syempre mahalaga din ito yung pagkakaroon or pag-i-educate din sa kanila, no, on how or what are going to do when earthquake occur, no, strike, no, sa kanila, sa lugar nila. No, next, we can prevent natural earthquake from occurring, but we cannot prevent natural earthquakes from occurring, but we can significantly mitigate their effects by identifying hazards, building safer structures, and providing education on earthquake safety. By preparing for natural earthquakes, we can also reduce the risk for human-induced earthquake. So, hindi po talaga natin maiiwasan, no, yung earthquake na ito. Lalo higit sa panahon natin ngayon, na marami tayong naranasan iba't ibang dilubyo, iba't ibang pangyayari sa ating kapaligiran. So, it is important for us to be prepared, for us to be resilient in anything or in anything we have, no? So, ayan, may kasabihan po ako dyan, nasabi dyan, earthquakes remind us that even the strongest structure can crumble It's teaching us to build our lives in the foundation of faith, love, hope, compassion, and resilience. No, let us allow the earthquake in our life. No, it's make us strong. No, it doesn't mean na nakakaranas tayo ng problema. It doesn't mean nakakaranas tayo ng earthquake sa buhay natin. Eh, yun na yung wakas natin. No, no. So it means, no, it teaching us, it's warning us, no, to have and to build a strong foundation, especially in our faith, no, in love, in hope, compassions, and maging resilience kita in different challenges that we face through our lives, no? So, ayan, thank you for listening and God bless. I hope you have takeouts with this lesson earthquake. Maraming salamat po.